I have the RHG fill and go dual user system here. I wanted to put a review on it when we were searching for a system to purchase. We couldn't find any user reviews, and those usually carry quite a bit of weight in the field. See what's noticed. You can see what the manufacturer puts out onto it or a supplier's site. But it's different once you see the users, what's been experienced in the field. This is a dual user. It should not be sold as a dual user. It can't keep up with the tank, with the water coming in. It's just a poor dual user. Single user, it's okay, but never a dual user. The reason I say that is it's got a 52-gallon holding tank. That's if you bypass the float automatic fill stop on it. We filled this at 50 gallons, and it took us an hour and 10 minutes to fill it. With 2 users, it took us 40 minutes to empty it. So that was pretty. You don't get much work time off of that size of a tank, I guess. Single user, I tried it with a single user also. We got an hour and a half with it, and it does have the flow controllers. My flow wasn't excessive. My flow was exactly what we used for 15 years on a battery operated cart by RHG that we used for years. So I mean, some might say maybe our flow was too high. What we we purchased a system that would have a higher flow rate to it, and still wasn't excessive, but it just emptied it very quick. One of the problems is the booster pump. It's stated as being a 5-gallon per minute pump, which it is. Unfortunately, it only delivers 2 gallons per minute into the tank. So that's what holds you up as far as filling it. And as far as 2 users, this booster pump barely keeps up with 2 users on the site. We use this, and what it would do is it would, you'd get to a point and you would start losing a little pressure on one or both of the poles you're using, because the tank would start to get empty a little bit. We found ourselves shutting the pole off for a little bit just to get that tank to fill up some. Big inconvenience. The booster pump really needs to be relocated. The nice thing, what it needs is a bracket. So the carbon and sediment filters here have this metal bracket that bolts into the frame, and then if you ever needed to change this, very quick and easy. If you need to change this booster pump, the 2 screws on this side and there's 2 screws on the other side that need to be replaced go directly through the frame. Our shipper, when we received this, damaged this booster pump, so I had to replace it. It took one of my guys 3 hours to replace that pump because we had to take this whole system apart. The frame is a U shape. It goes straight up across the tank and then back down. You have multiple bolts on the bottom. All 4 corners have the screws that attach, and then you have to remove the hose reels and all your components, slide the frame up, and get access to the back of those bolts on the booster pump to replace it. 3-hour job. I mean, just a little bit of planning ahead makes it easy in the future to replace it if you need to. Yeah, it might not be necessary for most people to replace it, but a simple bracket would eliminate something like that for needs as they arise. One of the things we did not like is the quality of hose. We asked them to put 2 different color hoses on here. When you get, each hose reel has 200 feet of hose. When you get 400 feet of hose spread out, it's kind of nice to determine or differentiate, I guess, which user is which. Helps untangle things, keep things from getting tangled. But both quality hoses are very poor. In the past, we had an RHG 5-stage cart. The quality of hose that we had on this thing, very good quality hose that's on here. Not the same on this thing. These hoses kink very easily. When it kinks, it cuts off your supply. What happened, because it cut off our supply, our delivery pump was still running, and you can see the cheap hoses that the delivery pumps have going out to the hose reels, which also leaks. Here's a drip right here on the bottom. That thing drips constantly. We've replaced it, pulled it out, and tried getting a better seal on it. It leaks constantly, which is bad, but it's a cheap hose. You can see what happened when my hose kinked. It blew the hose up. So this hose is swelled. You can see where the mesh inside of it. This is what the hose should look like. And this hose is swelled. It's not only swelled here, but it also runs back. You can see how you have the ripples on it here where it's swelled. The bulge is here, and this leads right to the second user, and it even is swelled even up here. And that's because this hose is cheap, thin quality that it kinks on the site, and then it cuts off your pressure, and that delivery pump still is trying to pump through it, and it just, the cheap hose gives. That hose, to put actually a decent hose on there, is probably about a $2 fix. I mean, really, it's to cut costs. That's not a place to cut costs because you're not saving yourself anything. The hose reels, we love how they spin. We like this setup too. They pull out unreal easy with having two. The cheap thing on these is the arms. These arms, you know, they come stock with 200 feet of hose. I'm not even going to put much pressure on this. You can see how cheap this arm is. It is ridiculous. When you have 100 feet into the hose that you're winding in, you start to get some weight on this, and this starts to rock a little bit. You can see already the paint's chipping away from here. What's going to happen is we only have 9 hours of use on this machine, and yeah, those rivets are going to pop. Both hose reels are doing the same thing. The paint's chipping away. You can see where the bolt rubs down here. Just poor design. Another poor design is the location of the antennas here for the remotes. You can see how this antenna goes right up into your hose. So we were reeling this in, and came to a complete sudden stop. What happened is this antenna got caught in between two pieces of hose, and I'm surprised it didn't rip that antenna off of there. It's just too close. Remote for the delivery pumps. This is the only way to turn your delivery pumps on and off. Very poor. I'd much rather have a switch. The range on these is barely over 100 feet. Well, the system comes with 200 feet of hose. So what sense does that make? We found ourselves trying to push the button, not getting anything because we were extended too far out on the hose, having to walk back towards the truck to try to be within range. Just frustrating. If you have 200 feet of hose, your remote should also work for that 200 feet, I would imagine. What else do we have on it? I think that's probably about it. We mentioned that, you know, it takes a while to fill that tank. Tank filled about 50 gallons, hour and 10 minutes. 2 users emptied it in 40 minutes. I even tried it with the single user. Single user emptied it in an hour and 30 minutes. Cheap hoses coming off your delivery pumps to the hose reels. It's swelling the hoses up and they're going to burst. Remotes don't go the range on them isn't far enough to match the hose that's on the hose reel. The material for the hoses themselves are cheap, kink very easily. Arm on the hose reels, very flimsy, are going to break. I would say within 20 hours of use. They're 9 hours on them and they're on their way out. Should be a single user system, not a dual user system. Just doesn't keep up with the flow, and should be mounted, connected to water all the time, because as a tank based system, I guess I'm not sure what most people carry for tank sizes when they do mount these in a vehicle, but 50 gallons just wasn't enough, I guess, for my needs. Maybe it's different. And as far as power, you don't want a battery with this system. You don't want an independent battery. You'd want a vehicle mounted battery, connect it up, get it wired back to your vehicle's battery. Would probably be the best way to go. And I think that's about all I have on the RHG fill and go system, dual user. Unfortunately for me, I'm going to return this system back. RHG has a 30-day guarantee on it, and it just didn't meet our expectations of, you know, what we were trying to do. We were trying to go from the 5-stage battery operated pump, running 2 poles with a splitter off of it. Wanted to come to this to try to get a little bit more pressure off of it. We weren't looking for too much more. this didn't offer it to us because the system can't keep up with the water that it's putting out for 2 users. So we're going to return this. Unfortunately for us, we eat our shipping costs to crate this thing back up and ship it, so it'll be a few $100s to do that. But this is a $6,000 system. Too many parts on this are cheap. They cut corners on it. This system here 5 years ago had very good parts on it. Not a problem with anything that we experienced in 5 years with this system. We have 9 hours on this system. We have hoses that are swelling, hose reel issues with the arms. Just can't keep up with the flow, the productivity of it. Just so unfortunately for us, this isn't a good review, but we'll look for a system that'll work better for us in the future. That's my review of the Fill and Go and how I see it. Thank you much.